pull up chat. Okay. Hello, welcome to the Battle Maison post-game series of Pokemon X. I played a little. On Wednesday, I did all of the singles. So I did one full run of singles, got myself 48 battle points, and I actually, just before the stream, spent them on 2 TMs. One of them was Crabhammer, and the other was Slash. Slash is less vital to me. There's not really anything on my team that I feel like needs Slash. Like, obviously, Titanium could maybe use it. She's not usable here, so not particularly great. But I was looking at Crabhammer, and I realized Crabhammer here is better Aqua Tail. It is like 1/9 extra damage, so slightly stronger. The accuracy is the same, and it has a higher critical hit chance. So I think I'm going to give that to Chert, because since this is in the normal game, I actually have the ability to continue to tweak these move sets and stuff if I get better moves. So that's what I'm going to do here. Is I'm going to give Chert Aqua Tail. Or give Chert Crabhammer instead of Aqua Tail. I still have like a handful of leftover BP, but not enough for me to really do anything else with that. So yeah, I'm just going to go straight into doubles. I did unlock super singles. I'm not going to do those immediately. I think my goal is to do single, double, triple rotation. You know, do these 4. I don't think I can do multis here. I think you have to have a person. You can do multis in Sun and Moon in the battle tree. You cannot do them in X and Y, I don't think. Like if I go to multi-battle, it's going to require that I find someone else, right? Oh, no, maybe I can. Because I said I didn't want to communicate. Okay, so actually, I guess I can do multis possibly then. So my goal is to go through all of the normal level ones. And then maybe all of the upper level ones. But, yeah. So today I'm doing doubles. I don't know if it's going to go in one run or not. We'll see. Also, the battle box, I have to level up 3 Pokemon for it, obviously. Seismitoad is below level, Gardevoir is below level, so is Ninetales, but mainly Seismitoad. If you're below... Oh, wait, why do I have Arceus in there? Wait, I have to remove Arceus from it. You can't be in there, buddy. Okay, so Arceus is 3 gaps deep, so... Yeah? No, here. Yeah. Arceus is not allowed to come and take part in this. Forgot about that. Okay, who felt interesting of this group? Before I start today's run. Gypsum was nice. High special attack. Gypsum's really low level though. Limestone was also a special attacker. Amethyst didn't really have anything super good, but also isn't fully evolved. Oh man, maybe Garnet. Though Pyrite was a physical attacker, so maybe I should go with a physical mon. Honestly, Obsidian could be very good here. So 1, 2, so between spots 1 and 2. Yeah. Yeah, let's bring Obsidian in. There we go. Alrighty. It is time to face your fear. What is this fear? Okay, now we're doing in party. Okay, so obviously titanium's not allowed here. So I think asbestos is very good to have. Citrine should not come in with asbestos. Ooh, idea, okay. Okay, I think this is how I want to do it. No, actually, I'm going to do Citrine instead of Americanite. There we go. I don't think it particularly matters, but I would say Minecraft is a pretty well-balanced game. Like, if you were to look at, like, the mining and combat aspects, those are masculine. I think that the construction of, like, kind of, like, building your own, like, spaces to live, the ability to farm, those could be seen as, like, more feminine, quote-unquote, game traits. So I think Minecraft kind of straddles that line. I think early on, I would probably say yes, it would be considered more in that masculine space. But I think, and that's probably part of why Minecraft is so successful, is it's a game that really anybody can enjoy. It's like one of those games that's like, yeah, any game can be for everybody. But I think it's one that has things that appeal directly to a variety of target audiences, which not every game can say about itself, you know? Not every game has that kind of going for it. Maybe. I'm not the most versed in Sonic games personally, but I could see that argument. I would argue maybe Unleashed. I feel like the werehog concept was meant to appeal to like male players specifically. I don't think that that's something that would, not that it wouldn't appeal, but like I think that's not something that they would see as focused on female players, you know? And then Frontiers, I think, does to a degree, especially with how, you know, they have Sonic's voice actor play Sonic with like a slightly deeper voice than usual. You know, Sonic, no, they made Sonic not cooler, because Sonic's always had coolness as a part of his character, but like, I don't know, more serious and cool, kind of like falling into that like badass character niche. So I could see the argument for it being more obviously targeted to like a male target audience. Even though, you know, as with anything, anyone can play any game. Any game can be for anybody. The most overtly feminine Sonic game, I think I'm going to stick to 3D Sonic. And again, I'm not as versed, but I think if anything, I'm not sure. I've had ideas like pop up, like maybe this. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know that Sonic has ever really had an effort to have a female audience. I could maybe see any of the games that like maybe has more of like a focus on like Amy at times or something. You know, they could argue like, oh, this is so that we can get the like female target audience a little bit. We need to have more Amy in this. Like I could see that. Not that it's like a strong argument, obviously, but you know, I'm trying to think of like what efforts they would do to make Sonic appeal more. I could maybe see Frontiers a little bit in the idea of having a character creator. I feel like the idea of designing your character could maybe be something that could like that appeals to the girls. The girls are gonna want that. But at the same time, I feel like Sonic, oddly enough, has always, I guess not so oddly, has always had a relatively male target audience. And I think that's just partially the era of games that it first released in, and the vibe they wanted Sonic to have. They wanted him to be cool to the boys. And they really weren't even considering the possibility that like young girls might also be interested in this cute blue hedgehog character, but maybe they did. I don't know, it's one of those things that like is kind of complex. You know, personally, I think, again, anybody can enjoy any game. Target audiences are a thing, though. You know, I don't think when they were developing Dark Souls, they were like, women are gonna love this. Not that there was no consideration on that end. I just think that, you know, obviously they had their intentions, they had their expectations, they had their target audience in mind. I think, you know, Pokemon, when it first started out, the target audience was young boys. And I think they very quickly realized that Pokemon had a much broader target audience than that. And so they slowly started modifying how they handled the games and how they went about making Pokemon what it is so that they could have that broader target audience, including the young girls. And I think that was, you know, they first started to do that with Gen 2, where you could actually play as a girl. There was a girl character you could pick. Because I think that was started in Crystal. I don't think that was a thing in Gold and Silver, but that was a thing in Crystal. And so that was probably when they were starting to realize, like, this craze is big and not just with boys. And we should not just market to boys, we should market to girls too. They like these cute little creatures. Or sorry, yeah, Forces, not Frontiers, what am I saying? like I had forces in my brain. I just said Frontiers. This is what happens when they release two Sonic games, like two 3D Sonic games back to back with an F and an R as major letters in the name in the subtitle. Next, they're gonna release like Sonic Frenchman. I could see the Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. I was thinking specifically of like mainline recent games, and specifically like 3D entries. But yeah, I think in general, I think that Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog could be one of their broadest target audience because you know, there's such a broad number of people who are interested in like visual novels, and VNs there are VNs with male audiences, but there's also VNs with female audiences, and the ones that don't specifically play to either are very, very broad appeal type of games. So yeah, I could definitely see that that counting, yeah. But yeah, I think overall games have more recently started having broader target audiences. There's a large group of people who would say that's a bad thing. I think that that's perfectly fine, because that doesn't mean that a game is going to change its tone necessarily. I think it's just that it will include options or side content that might not appeal to everyone, but will appeal to some. Like I think it depends on how it's played. I think it depends on how it's played. Death can be a very emotional thing, and I think that there's an argument to be made that because women are socialized to be more in tune with emotions. I'm not going to say emotional because that's not true. That's kind of a negative stereotype. But in tune with emotions, women are socialized to understand their emotions more than men. It's expected that they will have more understanding, be more connected to them, and will feel them as a result more intensely at times. So if you're playing a death as emotional, there's a level to which that could be argued to appeal to a female audience a little more. Not that it explicitly has to, but that can be the case. But I don't know. Like I think of like games that I think of that when I'd first heard of them, I was like, this is a guy game. Guys love this game. I think of like Monster Hunter, and I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter Wilds recently. I played Monster Hunter Rise, and I was like, these are games developed very clearly with a male market in mind. You know, you look at the female armor, and it's some of it breasts a little boobily, you know, but then I realized as I got more into playing Monster Hunter Rise, and I saw content on it more and stuff like that, even before I started playing, when I was seeing content on it, it started to become apparent. I'm like, oh, the female armor is not just like sexy armor. Some of it is, but some of it's like very just beautiful, very dainty, very like, I'm like, oh, okay. So it's not all like male gaze centric armor. Some of this is like, I think a woman would like to wear this type stuff. Like what would a woman want to wear? And I'm like, ooh, maybe the audience on this game is a little broader than I gave it credit for. And then now Monster Hunter Wilds has taken that so much further. So one, you can pick to have the masculine or feminine body type independently of the masculine or feminine animation set, independent of masculine and feminine voice acting. All hair and facial hair options are available across any body type, so you can play with you know, a character that you're like, I'm gonna breast the boobiest, I'm gonna be so big booby girl, it's gonna be great, and have like a huge beard. Like you could have a Santa beard and breast boobily if you want to. Like they really went far with that. They give you a lot of power in the character creator. But not only that, the armor sets in the game have two versions. There's the masculine quote-unquote version, the feminine quote-unquote version. They never say that explicitly. There's, I think, circles and diamonds. But the concept of each one is very clear. Like, this is the masculine, like the traditionally masculine or male armor set. And this is the, like, female armor set. And you can wear those regardless of which body type you've chosen. So actually what I tend to do is I tend to pick the armor sets that I'm like, I would wear that more realistically because my character looks like me. So as I play the game and I get new pieces of armor, I look at both versions and go like, would I wear this or would I wear this? And often I do find myself picking some of the female armor or feminine armor pieces because I'm like, it's not as gigantic and bulky. It looks more like something I would probably wear. And I think that's like a really cool thing is that I can mix and match. Like I have right now the sleeves that I'm wearing are from an armor set that the male armor set has these like tentacles that grow down because it's the new Udra armor set, which the new Udra is like a giant octopus monster, and it has like these big tentacles that hang down over your fingers, but they aren't your fingers, they just hang over your fingers. I'm like, I would hate that. But the female armor set doesn't have that. You just have these like black gloves, and then they go up to like here, and it's actually like a bare upper arm. And I'm like, I probably wouldn't wear that, but I would much prefer having that freedom of movement with my hands without the gigantic tentacles hanging over the edge there. Gonna drink some milk. But I don't know. I think Monster Hunter Wilds has actually done a very good job about like allowing you to wear whichever armor sets you want, create your character however you want. I think it's really cool that they have those options. There is a part of me that wants to like make a separate save in the game because I can't have multiple saves. Part of me wants to make a separate save to like do on stream. I'm like, I don't know what I would want my character to be, because I'm already playing as myself on my personal save, and I'm like, do I want to do that, or do I want to go in some completely unique direction and have this entirely unique character that I would never have had otherwise? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. If I do, we'll have to figure out what I want to be. But I will say, last thing on Monster Hunter Wilds, I do appreciate the fact that, you know, the idea of like, dressing your character up in like effectively like the sexy armor is something that like you can do with like a male character. So you could have like the sluttiest man hunting monsters, and I'm like, that's really cool that you could do that. Or you can have the biggest, beefiest armor on like the female characters. Now it's not like so like tightly restricted. It's really cool. I support games removing any limitations on what outfits you can wear. I think Pokemon Scarlet and Violet did that. And a lot of people kind of criticized the characters you play as for not being super customizable. I think maybe part of that stems from that, but you know, it was their first attempt at something like that. So like the outfits are very androgynous, but I'd like to see what they do in future games. That one had a very specific theme to the outfits. Well, it depends on the ones. Usually, though, you would die anyways, because a breastplate is a form of plate armor, obviously, as the name would imply. And plate armor was very vulnerable to arrows. Plate armor is what you would hit with arrows. Yes, it could deflect an arrow if it hit at, like, not a great angle, but a lot of bows had a lot of power behind them. So you would just loose an arrow, and it would go straight through that thing, unless it was, like, very thick. Like, bows were meant to go through your plate armor. But then with, like, what you would want to have is you would want to have your plate armor, and underneath that you'd want to have your chainmail, because chainmail was more to deflect, or no, was chainmail slashing? I can't remember right now. Wait. Don't mind me, I'm googling my armors. Plate mail armor purpose. What are you for? Against sword cuts, spear thrusts, and blunt weapons. So that, yeah, plate armor was like blunt. Chainmail was slashing, piercing. Okay, I was actually right. Okay, yeah. So yeah, you would wear your chainmail to defend against bows. So like you would have your plate armor, and then you'd have your chainmail under it. And the chainmail would act to reduce that shock. It was a shock absorber and disperser. So getting hit by an arrow and the plate armor, you'd lose some energy to the armor, but it would go through and then hopefully get deflected a bit by that chainmail. They're chill in my book. Often people are very judgy, I guess, of people who make NSFW art. But I think one important thing to remember is that if all you are drawing are naked people, you better know your anatomy. Your anatomy is a lot more vital. Buzz, I know she's outside. He's freaking out. He's like, I want out there. But yeah, like, people are often very down on NSFW artists because they're like, oh, you're just drawing things for porn addicts, basically, is the mindset. And it's like, not necessarily. Like, yeah, like, they'll be into that, but I think I have a lot of respect for people who draw NSFW stuff, because again, like, you have to really know your anatomy well. Like, you know, if you're studying anatomy and art, you're usually drawing Like you're doing figure drawings of like nude models. Oh my god, did they just say Icon has battle meow? That's crazy. That's crazy. Oh man, old memes right there. Also, I do want to say I fought the trans black belt to beauty trainer. It is a trainer you fight, and I did fight her. Very cool. But yeah, I mean, yeah, but in my eyes, when it comes to things like porn and like sexual addictions, well, those are a bad thing. They're not addictive in the same way or for the same reasons as things like drugs. So people who make NSFW art or NSFW content, people who work as like sex workers and whatnot, they don't fall into that same category as someone who like makes like cigarettes, you know, because while those things are addictive, they're not physically addictive, they're psychologically addictive, and anyone can become psychologically addicted to anything. Like, you know, you could just as easily become addicted to Diet Coke, like Matt Pat, for example. You could just as... Actually, I think Diet Coke is technically actually addictive, but not... I don't know if it's physically, it might be a little. But the split between physical and psychological addictions, or physical addictions, you need them. Like, your body... Like, you have to wean off it. You can't quit cold turkey very easily, or you could cause harm to yourself. Like, so it's best to wean. Doesn't mean you can't quit cold turkey, but it's a lot harder because it physically causes issues for you. Your body will have problems if you just try to quit cold turkey. So while there are a lot of people with like sex related addictions or porn addictions and stuff, those addictions are more on the psychological side than the physical side. And it's not that someone needs the thing, it's that they feel like they need the thing. And that can happen, again, with anything. The reason it happens so much with that type of content, and in those specific areas, is because everybody on, I guess, okay, I shouldn't say everybody, but the average person, like, is involved in some level of like sexual activity. The average adult has like sexual attraction, sexual desire, things like that. So the idea of someone becoming addicted to it is pretty easy. It's just as easy as a food addiction. And a lot of people have food addictions. You know, and it's not physically addictive like caffeine or cocaine or tobacco. It's purely psychological. You feel like you need something, you don't actually need something. You could quit cold turkey and you won't die. There are two physical addictions that if you quit cold turkey, when you're very addicted, you will die. And those are alcohol and I think opiates. Alcohol and opiates are like the two hardest withdrawals to go through. And they can kill you. But like a sex addiction would never cause that for someone. It's still difficult to deal with. It's still an addiction. Addiction is still a disease that really is devastating to your life. But it's not to the same extent as like a physical addiction would. So I think that generally speaking, well, there is the risk that someone does become like addicted to porn or addicted to sex because of content produced by NSFW artists. I think that it's not nearly as detrimental. Like, there's people who will work in any vice industry. I think that if that's the vice that someone's working on, it's like, all right. Like, it's a lot less concerning to me. Because you're not doing something that's going to harm someone directly, guaranteed. Even if someone has an addiction. And, like, well, addictions are bad. You know, I think that there's a level to which, like, I wouldn't blame an artist or, like, a sex worker or something like that any more than I would blame, or actually, I would blame them much less than I would blame, like, a bartender at, like, an actual bar, or a company that sells cigarettes or vapes or things like that. Like, I think those are much more insidious because they're fully normalized. It's normal to be addicted to vapes in, like, modern society. It's normal to drink heavily in ways that are impactful on your life. It's normal to have those vices. I think people hold, like, sex to, like, a special standard, which, like, is fair to a degree. I don't think it's a good thing, but to become, like, addicted to it. But I don't think that people making NSFW art are really as at fault for that. I don't know. There's a level to which I feel like it's a little different in how it's much more it's less personal. It's not as interpersonal. Like, I don't go, like, I guess if someone was commissioning an NSFW artist a ton for, like, specific art, like, that might start to get to a weird point. But if it's just an NSFW artist making art on their own, go for it. I don't care that much. You know, it's not like they're actively enabling someone's addiction in the same way that, like, the person who sells someone a pack of cigarettes twice a week does. And the same way that someone who introduces someone else to vaping does. You know, and I'm someone who, like, I don't drink, I don't use any drugs, I don't smoke. I'm a man of few vices, you could say. Okay. I realized I had that. So, like, with that in mind, like, I have a slightly different view on those types of drugs and whatnot than maybe the average person might. But hyphen. But, like, I don't know. I think that, well, I can see the path, you know, as someone who has at times consumed NSFW content. I can see the path that people go on that leads to addiction, and that is a little scary to see sometimes. It's similar to when I was, now I've gained most of it back, but when I was losing weight more actively in the past, this is like sort of like 2020-ish, I could see the path that people go on that leads them to eating disorders. I would say that an eating disorder is kind of like a weight loss addiction. And I could see that path because there were days where I could see that my mood was being shaped by what my scale said when I woke up. And that was scary. That was much scarier to me than when I would go, yeah, I feel like I'm going to go to, like, insert adult content site, you know? Like, that was much scarier to me when I was losing weight and I could see that my mood was literally determined at the start of the day by what my scale said that morning. That was really scary. I was like, I see it now. I see why people fall into this. It is so dangerous. And I could see how if I would have that happen in the morning and I would look at the scale and it was like it wasn't as low as I wanted it to be. It not necessarily went up. Most days it didn't go up. I was trending down pretty significantly, going from very overweight to eating like a normal amount of food for the most part. But on days where it didn't move as much, I didn't want to eat as much. Like, and that was especially scary. That I could look at the scale, see that it only went down like 0.2 pounds or something as opposed to the previous day, and feel really discouraged, and then kind of consider not eating as much because of that. Like, looking at it and going, do I want to eat this for dinner, or do I want to eat like an apple and some peanut butter? And there were days that I had to like actually make the choice that I didn't want to make and eat something a little like more like nutrient rich, I guess. Something with broader nutritional values. Like I could see that trend forming where I was like, oh man, I don't really want to eat this, but I'm like, I should eat an actual dinner. And that was probably one of the scarier points in life, because I was just like, man, like that was just as scary as the day that I went and looked at the scale and I weighed 262 pounds. And went, that is like 40 pounds from when my dad had to have a like triple bypass, or like what I think it was a triple bypass surgery. He was like 300 pounds at the time. Like I think his peak was 330 around that time. But like I remember it was scary that he hit 300. I was like, I am 40 pounds away from that. I am 40 pounds from that point. And I was like, I am, at that time I was like, I'm 21, you know, coming up on 22. And that was scary. And it was just as scary to me when I hit that as when I realized how much like the scale mattered to me, how much it shaped my day. So like, you know, when it comes to people making NSFW art, knowing that it's just as easy to get into that addiction as it is to get into like a food addiction, as it is to get into something like an eating disorder, but that it's also something that's usually much less harmful. I'm like, in the grand scheme of things, it's not the scariest thing someone does. I think there are scarier things someone could be doing that could be harming people in their day-to-day lives. So if that's the worst someone does, I don't really care. And at the same time, a lot of people make art that could be considered NSFW, not specifically to give other people NSFW content, but to practice skills that are vital as artists. I mean, my close friend, and all of my, honestly, most of my close friends who do art have done something NSFW, but my close friend who's done a lot of art for the channel, 4 Dozen Eggs, has also done like NSFW art, and he doesn't really tend to share it as much as far as I know. But it's often just like, it's good practice. And honestly, it can help people get jobs. Like, actually. One of the biggest things that I think I remember very, very strongly is, if there is a thing you are seeing in content websites like you know, like video platforms, or really technology in general. Things in technology are pushed more by adult content than anything else. And I mean that sincerely. There is nothing that pushes tech faster than adult content. Blender's, I believe, hair pipelines were driven by Overwatch NSFW animators. Like people who were taking Overwatch models or Overwatch characters and making NSFW stuff from them. They were like, look guys, you gotta get something that lets me do the hair a lot easier. This is too hard. And it pushed a lot of people to start developing those tools significantly more. So it's funny in a way, but at the same time, like it is genuinely true. Like there's a lot of good that comes from people making NSFW content, even if you don't necessarily want to consume it directly, or you don't really support it being an industry. There's a lot of good that does come from it, and that can't really be understated. Ooh, Heliolisk. That's true. That's true. It is video game music or Kevin MacLeod. I am someone who's used both. I generally trend towards video game music these days if I'm using music. Or like original pieces. Not my original pieces, but like pieces that I've paid someone else to do. Like the intro and outro, or sorry, the intro to my channel specifically, not the outro, is by like one of my close friends, Mike from Board Brains. He is Sonic the Hedgehog, to be fair. But I guess they haven't really said it in full as much in recent years. So I guess it's fair to not necessarily have caught on to that being a thing. They do not really wear his hedgehogness as on the like as out in the open. So, oh, why do you have that? Okay, well you lost your big root. This Carnivine's gonna be annoying. I think it's a special attack Carnivine though, because it's running Leaf Tornado. Yeah, that is true. So I think I'm gonna have to stall this Carnivine out because I don't think I can beat it raw here. Like I don't think I can naturally beat this, especially with it lowering my accuracy. Sharp Claws. Ah, that's bad for me if they poisoned me. I didn't realize they would have Sludge Bomb. They have not used that much, so they might be out of Leaf Tornado. I have 10 turns of this. Don't worry about it. I mean, you could argue, so this isn't something that they really explicitly talk about much, but like obviously like, you know, echidnas have quills. Like his like hair is meant to be quills that are just like going down. So there's that. But yeah, no, Sonic characters do not often look like what they're supposed to be. That is a good point. I don't know how much PP Stockpile has, so I am worried about this thing. I'm trying not to flinch them, which is why I'm using Leaf Blade right now. At least they didn't poison me with like toxic poison. That could have been bad. I did not notice what it was, but probably not. If anything, it was probably to one of the cats, though. Boop, boop, boop. Alright. If I get lucky and get a crit, that would be nice. Okay, so they're using Stockpile now. How much PP does Stockpile have? That has to be like 10. Tactics. Where are you? Attack Dex, Gen 6. Stockpile. Stockpile has, oh, it has 20. That's bad for me. I might die. Because 20... So they've used 4. So they have 16 left. It's 2 of my full health in poison damage, so I'm just barely going to survive that. Assuming they don't have... Oh, they also have Ingrain. How much does Ingrain have? Ooh, that could be bad for me. Ingrain's only been used once. $20 as well. Nope, I die. Unless I manage to get real lucky with my moves. Oh, we got a crit. We might be losing here. Stockpile Carnivine was more of a threat than I was expecting. Indeed, indeed. Alright, milk drink. So now he's using Ingrain. Okay, he's just alternating. If by any chance I had not been poisoned, I would have been able to win this, but... I'm gonna let it ride, though. I'm gonna see what I can do. And the off chance they've somehow used up more PP than I'm thinking they did. One milk drink left. This is the most pathetic fight. If I'd known that Carnivine would be more of a threat, I would have focused it sooner. Which, to be fair, it just did not use Sludge Bomb at all. Like, it used Sludge Bomb so late. Like, only after it had run out of Leaf Tornadoes, because it was not very effective. And that was not good for me. Yeah, he's still using moves, so, yeah. I would have needed 4 turns, more than 4 turns. I would have needed 5 turns after he'd run out of PP. Dang. She was nasty. It's a nasty team. Well, let's see if we can get anything good. 26. Ooh, I can get Fake Out now? Okay, Fake Out. TM 87. So I have no physical attackers who want to learn it. It's fine. One thing I could do... One thing I could do is I'm gonna swap my Battle Box team in. And we're just gonna, I'm gonna level my Battle Box team up. We do have some Pokemon here that can learn Fake Out, which is nice. Obsidian needs something to give a status condition, which I don't really have yet. I can get one eventually, but for now, get a lucky egg, because you're going to be... Just going to swap that. Going to be needing to level up. So I'm actually going to just level up my team for the rest of the stream. So again, my alternate team come in. Do I have a fly? I do have a fly Pokemon here. Marble does. Oh look, the Nuzlocke ended. We're good. This dead team is allowed to rise for the purpose of the battle Maison. I should probably just go straight down. Do I have... I should have a surf Pokemon here. Oh, that did a lot more. We're gonna get big. If I remember correctly, the Aggron here are what I'm looking for. There's really not a ton they can do. Duat can do some things. Yeah, that's a thing. Because I'm like, Duat has things it can do. Not necessarily the scariest things, but it has things. Symbol-wise, I am partial... This is technically a variable, but I'm partial to Theta. Partial to Theta because I had... Oh, does that kick me out of Fly? It sure does, wow. But yeah, partial to Theta because my pre-calculus teacher in high school called it Pokeball. Which helped me remember that that is what Theta looks like. It was actually an effective teaching technique. I could technically buy healing items now, but it's fine. Oh, power. That's right, the Aggron have Moonlight. Honestly, I feel like it'd be kind of boring. Because while there is a lot of like complex math going on, it's all in ones and zeros. I feel like if you were to somehow have your consciousness trapped in some like strange math space, I was just curious how much that would do. Not much. Healed 3 health off that. Yeah, if you were to be like trapped in like a computer's electrical area, I don't know. I feel like it would be very dark, with intermittent flashes of lightning that would be the ones and zeros, and they would be pretty fast. So it would depend on if your existence is at human speed, or if you were almost in like a stasis. It would just look like lightning, maybe. Like, I feel like the Matrix, like, little, like, blue, 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 text is, like, relatively close to what I imagine, but instead of little wibbly text, I feel like there would be, just series of, like, flashes, breaking up the void. It could cause them. I could see it maybe being like if you were trapped in like in the CPU specifically, like there's like all the little like sections of the CPU would maybe have things going on in different areas. So it would maybe not be like the entire sky is just bloom, 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 but like a bunch of like twinkling things above you type thing. Brighter. Like, I don't know what the equivalent would be, but I'm thinking like if you ever see lightning far in the distance, like that. Like when you see lightning really far in the distance, how it like lights up a section of the sky, but not the whole shebang, especially like if the clouds are in the distance too. Like that's what I think of more so. Like you just see this like little like poof, poof, poof going. You're too late, do what? Well, this one could... It depends. Is the one there inspired by a cut Pokemon? Because, so this... this specific design comes from the channel Jazza. He did a thing where it was taking cut Pokemon, and then one of his like artists on the team, Alicia, she would draw them, like draw these like cut Pokemon to have like a consistent design base. Then Jazza would 3D model them in VR, and then one of his friends who primarily assists on his tabletop channel, Tabletop Time, would then go through and would take the like printed minifigures and like paint them. So this one's name in the like kind of list of cut Pokemon was named Groats, probably coming from like grotesque. And so that's where this comes from. So there's a non-zero chance. Like, yeah, maybe that it could be a similar design base. That, you know, that specific design inspired as well. Can I fly from here? Yes. But yeah, I think they did 6 total in that video, and then I went through and did pixel art of all of them. And it was really cool because I shared it in... Jazza Studios used to run a second channel that was called Insert Art. It didn't end up being particularly financially successful. It was difficult because they had multiple artists who were taking the lead on the channel. And like even with setting up like a Patreon and stuff like that, it was just not really viable. And I think it's something that they did say that they would be willing to bring back if they can down the line, but just right now it wasn't realistic. But I shared them in that server, and I don't know if it was like one of the admins or something, or someone who had the ability to like reach out, got in touch with Alicia, and so she then came and actually like saw the sprites, which was very cool. And she was very excited. Yeah, you can 3D print video game models. The biggest difficulty is that most 3D models from video games don't come posed. So you do have this downside that when you first get the model, they're either going to be like T-posed or like A-posed, or kind of like this if they are like four legs, they'll like reach straight out. They're kind of like if you were to put them on their legs, they'd be A-posed. I don't really have anything I can use to show it as an example of that. But you can get like the fully rigged model from the modeler's resource. You can get those, pose them in like Blender or something like that, output that posed model as a .obj model, which I think that's what you 3D print from usually. So you can then take this existing model, pose it however you want, 3D print, and then like save that as a posed, this is now a solid model thing, and then 3D print that. Like that is a thing you can do. It's a little convoluted, but it does work. When I was in high school, we had a 3D printer, and we weren't perfect with it, but you would be able to like take the 3D printer and use it. And I tried 3D printing Goomy because I was like, that's a very simple Pokemon. Almost worked. I also tried doing King Dodongo from Ocarina of Time. His model was kind of like posed with his legs spread a little bit, but I was like, it's fine, whatever. I didn't have like the tools to like pose them. That one ended up not working out. The Goomy one worked better. It only messed up when it got to like the top of the antennae. I don't know. I don't think it has one, like a specific one. There's some programs might use specific ones, but like generally speaking, its outputs aren't a specific file type. Like if you were to use like any of the image generators, usually it's a JPEG or a PNG, just because that's the most common. Like those are the two most common like visual media output types. And imagine that the ones that do video are like MP4s. Probably just an exe file in most cases. Some of them are probably running in Python, so .py. It kind of depends on what their like what it was programmed in. My assumption is that most are .exe or are .py, just based on those being the most common things. Like if you're going to output it as a usable file, probably .exe. If you're going to output it as something that runs in a command line, like if you're outputting it as like a full program, probably .exe. If you're running it in the command line, probably .py. If you're running it in a browser, it's probably not programmed in JavaScript. The interface is probably programmed in JavaScript. But then like the tool itself is probably running like as a .py or something like that for Python. That's my assumption. I'm not 100% sure, because realistically it could be anything. Because they're not a special file, really. They're just a specific type of program. So like you could program it in most languages. So my assumption is any of the most common. If someone wanted to get real technical, have their own, like if someone wanted to get real technical and make their own, like their own program that runs it as an interface, it could even be like they make their own like .ai file. They don't have to. It's kind of a pointless thing, but they can do it. They are able to. Well, it depends, because different assemblies are different levels of readable to humans, and it is a common misconception that assembly is computer language. It's an intermediate language. Computer language is always binary. Unless it's a quantum computer, then I guess it would be with 3 variables. I don't know what they call it. In that case, maybe trinary. But when it comes to assembly code, it depends on what language it's coming from. It depends on what device you're on. Because I would say assembly code is closer to like how the device speaks. It's hardware language, not computer language, if that makes sense. Like the computer itself speaks binary, but the hardware speaks assembly, I guess is how I would put it. But yeah, some assembly languages are pretty human readable, actually. Because most of them do use like words here and there as the commands. It's just less. It's not human readable like Python is, but it is. If you are experienced in it, you can read it just fine. Like it's not like it's a mysterious, like hard to read computing language or anything. It's just harder to to read, I guess. It's familiar. I think I've seen something about the idea. I don't know that I've heard a ton. Let me see. Whoa. There we go. I accidentally tweaked the size of that. Alright. Okay. Interesting. So, I could see how that would be useful. The biggest hurdle... So, for those who don't know, DNA computing basically is using the chemistry of DNA. So, like, biochemists and molecular biologists and people tend to like work in it. And basically the idea is using DNA to like store data and do computations and whatnot. I was just trying to select. Yeah, because DNA, you can store a lot of data in DNA. And since DNA is very small, that makes sense. Why does it scroll automatically when I try to select things? I'm not even that high on the page. Interesting. So, yeah, the biggest issues are it's slow. I was gonna say, I'm like, that would be really slow to deal with. Oh, I forgot I had the experience boost going, but it's fine. Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, that sounds gonna be pretty slow because it takes us a while to read a line of DNA. So it would be very good for storage. I don't know if it would be ideal necessarily. It's nice because it's like a microscopic structure, but it's also like a fragile structure. It would be tough. Yeah, like the idea is like that. Oh, you can store so much in DNA, and you can. It's very small. You have 4 base pair or 2. You have 2 base pairs, 4 bases that can be at any specific point. So you could effectively look at it as 4, quote unquote, like 4 different numbers. So instead of just raw binary being like a 1-bit system on or off, this would be I guess a 3-bit system. Is that 4 color, right? Because you have 2 options, 2. Oh no, sorry, I guess it would be a 2-bit. So basically going from a 1-bit language to a 2-bit language. Which effectively would mean that you could store this. I guess you could store the same amount of data in a square root of the space, I guess, is kind of the idea. Like, if something was like 1 gigabyte, so like 1024 megabytes, you could give a square root of that, and now it's 32 megabytes worth of data, or whatever you would call it, like a DNA megabyte. So yeah, you could like store things in a pretty small space. Depends on how people wanted to make it. Probably, if it's supposed to be a space that they want humans to interact in, sort of, I would feel like it would probably be kind of like a metaverse style thing. Yeah, you use gravity, I don't care. Moonblast. And I'm just gonna keep dioptase going till 50. Yeah, my goal here is that I can then use this team to try the doubles. And if that doesn't go well, I'll just go back to the other team. But yeah, I'm going to do doubles again on Wednesday. We'll see if I can do better. Well, then I guess we would not really be able to know. Because I think that's the biggest thing is, like, if there's no human level stuff going on, then there's no need for it to be human observable, and it could be completely unintelligible. It's kind of like how, like, you know, binary and assembly are less human readable. Ooh, level 3 unlocked. Like, they're less human readable. The same thing would happen if you wanted to make it like cyberspace, but not for people. Then that's just the internet, you know? Which probably not the most entertaining thing to look at from inside of it. Like, I don't know, the spaces will not be made for people unless people are going to be in them. So, cyberspace as a concept that's interesting relies on people. Honestly, probably not, because there's no point in it being cubes if it's not for people. You could do... Honestly, I feel like it would be, because it only has to be understandable for computers. It could be even higher dimensions. You can store data in code structures that are like 5-dimensional or 4-dimensional very easily. Like, you could make an array, because, like, you know, you think of like a table as kind of like two arrays that are interlinked. You could make a cube version that's 3 arrays that are interlinked. You could make another version that's 4 arrays interlinked, 5 arrays. Like, so, like, if you want it to be sheer organizational, there's no reason for it to be cubes. It could be 6-dimensional storage structures, because humans don't have to understand it. It could be nth dimensional. Like, it can be as many as you want, as long as the computer's running it can handle it. And it's not too hard to run a 4-dimensional like data structure. It's actually more efficient than running multiple like 3-dimensional ones or something. So if there's no people, it wouldn't look like anything. It doesn't have to. But if you wanted to visualize what it would be, it doesn't have to be human comprehensible, even. Computers are not bound by human understanding. So it could really be anything. But it would probably be whatever is most efficient, if people don't have to be there. Now, if you wanted to have people able to interact, they would probably draw on video game concepts, movies. Like, they would look at what media has depicted cyberspace as like, because what's going to be easier for someone to understand this space that has a high barrier for entry, where you'd have to like come to understand like how things navigate it, or would it be easier to just go with the flow, do what feels natural, and have it be an intuitive space? No. Generally, no. If you want something that's coded to do, like, to change, you have to program it to be capable of doing that. So, a computer virus that learns could be programmed, like learns to go around different, like antivirus software tools and stuff like that. That could be a thing. Like, that could very much so exist. But it would not necessarily function on its own automatically. Like, you know, if I was just to make a virus that spreads itself, hypothetically, that data will slowly corrupt, and could effectively do the equivalent of mutating. But in computing, unlike DNA, I would argue it's easier to make something non-viable. DNA can do that too, but DNA can replicate en masse and every time it does, there will be those slight tweaks, those slight issues. I don't know that computing has as many issues, but computing also doesn't have as much space for fail-safes. DNA tends to. So, like, if you were to have a computer virus that self-replicates, it would probably do a pretty good job. And it would take a long time for it to become not what it was. If it was made to. Hypothetically, you could make, like, anyone could do this, they could make a virus that effectively stores information about antivirus software, updates, antivirus, like how an antivirus has interacted with past versions, and it could, like, when one is getting removed by an antivirus, like, maybe be programmed to, like, ping others if it's not super well quarantined, and, like, effectively, like, pass along, like, this data of how I got caught. Yeah, hypothetically, you could make a virus that does sort of evolve in that way, using existing data and then tweaking based on that. Hypothetically, that is an option. It might be difficult. It might be something that people have already tried and that antivirus tools already do their best to avoid. Just turned yourself into a rock type. It's not ideal for you. You were already weak to water, you're still weak to water. Right now, not very. Because the number of computers that could actually run one are quite low. As technology gets stronger, as things like AIs are easier to run locally, sure, that could become a problem. That would be a very dangerous issue. Would be, like, that would be literally the next sort of, like, area of, like, antivirus programming and cybersecurity. But the thing is, cybersecurity is already using AI tools to get stronger antiviruses. At the same time, that can make stronger viruses. So it would honestly probably be a similar arms race to what already exists between people who make viruses and people who make antiviruses. But hypothetically, the first generation of devices that can locally run complex AI could be susceptible to complex AI viruses. And that could be very difficult to remove if we don't already have antiviruses to deal with those. So, definitely something that could happen, could be dangerous. I would say probably not for the next, like, 5 years at least. Until, like, my phone can locally run Google Gemini, basically. I wouldn't have any concerns on that end. Yeah, it's honestly, it's a lot like, it's a human-led version of, like, natural selection. People make a virus that finds some loophole in an antivirus, and now it can cause issues, and then someone makes an antivirus that resolves that loophole. So they're constantly updating and going back and forth about what effectively that back and forth leads to them slowly both getting better at avoiding things, and slowly getting better at catching things, which keeps them pretty on the same level for the most part. Viruses are not much more dangerous now than they were before, because antiviruses are that much better. The The issue would be if someone made a virus that was so much better than any antivirus tool. But in current computing, I don't think that's going to happen. I think, sure, anyone could find that breakthrough idea. But that would be kind of tough to get through. Fred Update said Q-Charm. Yeah, honestly, I look at it a lot as it's like the predators and the prey animals that develop offenses and defenses alongside each other. It's a lot like that. Like there's like a specific area, I think in California, where the salamanders are slowly getting more toxic and the snakes are slowly getting more resistant to that toxin, as they both evolve alongside each other, defense and offense mechanisms. So effectively, the same happens in computing. Kind of, though, none of the AI tools we have right now are even a singular percent close to that concept. Hypothetically, but I don't think we would get there for like at least 100 years. Like, I don't think AI as it exists right now is even close to that level. But at the same time, I think that, and this is a little disappointing, I don't think it would ever be like that, even if we had AI at that level. Because if we had AI at that level, why would you waste that processing power making a virus personable? Unless that's the point of the virus, is that it's like an AI assistant, but it's actually a virus, and you're just trying to scam like old people, like maybe. But I don't think that would really be a huge thing in that specific way. Ooh, you do not have defense. But yeah, it's kind of like how, with a lot of sci-fi things, it's like, if you have the technology to do this, why even do that? Like, why make it like how we have it right now? Like, honestly, one modern day example that I can point to is, you could make this really high-tech, cool-looking military truck that has like a turret on it that's effectively like a tank with a turret, but like a faster tank. An armored truck with a little armored turret that's like AI-powered to aim at things. You could do that, but in doing so, you put so many vulnerabilities in that it might just be more efficient to buy a pickup truck, lift that bad boy in the back, and then stick a normal turret that's meant to be mounted on the ground in the bed of that truck, which is the most common type of like truck weapon that you see in like insurgents groups and stuff like that, and in like those sorts of like, rebel groups and stuff like that, or smaller, like, sort of like not backed by a government militia groups in countries that are like having some instability and internal infighting and stuff like that. It's literally, you're just gonna see like a bunch of guys with a big turret in the back of of a standard pickup truck. You know, it's gonna be like a Toyota. It's gonna be a Chevy. It's gonna be a Ford. You know, you're gonna see like a Ford F450 with a turret in the back, because that's the cheapest and easiest thing you could make that has that much firepower. And why have an AI aim when it's way cheaper and more replaceable? Instead of having a smart like supercomputer in this like tank, you just have a guy who's replaceable manning the turret. Oh, he got shot, get a new guy in it. I mean, well, if the computer got shot, that turret's dead in the water. So like, as far as those sorts of things in like sci-fi where it's like, oh, these automated turrets that all have their own AI stuff, it's like they would have to still have manual control. But the more AI things you stick in, the harder it is to make manual control viable. So yeah, it just becomes this like, ooh, what's the more effective strategy here? I forget what it was, but it was like it was a tweet that recently went viral. A little bit. It was like a fancy truck turret versus the old reliable truck turret, basically. That's true. Sonic Twitter is unhinged. But I think the same thing like that applies there applies to like all things in sci-fi. Like, why do this when it's way easier to do this? You know, why make a laser weapon that shoots a little like plasma bolt type thing that's powered by a laser when you could just make a really long range one that just that whole line is just death, you know? Dole Chop might not be bad. It's strength 80. Stronger than Ice Fang. Dragon move. It's kind of limiting though. So I think I'll keep Ice Fang for now. Ooh, that was magnitude 9. That's a beefy magnitude. Honestly, it depends. It depends. But my inclination is not very, at least with current tech. If it could self-repair, maybe. But current robotics are very fragile. You damage one part significantly enough and you have entirely made it useless. The thing that's scary about human soldiers is that we're animals. And animals, when cornered, are, through pure adrenaline, much more dangerous. So if you're in a combat space and you have a wounded soldier and they fight for their life, it's a lot more intense of a fight than, you know, if we had like a robot that its leg was hit. And, you know, sure, like maybe you develop it so that it can do those things on its own, you know, that it can learn to like move again if one of its limbs gets injured. Or maybe you've run simulations and trained it on like, oh, if you have injuries in this portion, you move like this. Sure. And that could be a little scary, but the only thing that would make it's scary is that because it's automated, there wouldn't be like mercy. You know, there you would have no security. If it was pursuing you, it will continue to pursue you until it can no longer pursue you, type of a thing, which is very scary in its own right. Like, now if there was something to that level that could exist as it does in universe, yeah, that would be terrifying. But I think as it stands now, I don't think robotics are that intimidating. At least not right now. You walk down a slippery path with that, because sometimes that fails. Sometimes that backfires. The ideas of implementing hard and fast rules that things will not violate gets very, very tricky at a certain point. Because maybe the best option to mitigate this risk is to violate this rule in some way or something like that. Like, I don't know, like it's, you enter a bit of a risky zone. Like I personally argued that if we were to get high level AI like that, at that level where it would be making those sorts of decisions, if it was human level, I think it would be wrong, effectively. It would be morally incorrect to I gotta flee. That Blitzel took me out with Hurricane. They'd effectively be people, and I think it would be wrong to impose hard and fast restrictions. I think it would be equivalent to modifying someone's genome to not be able to do certain things. And I think that would be unethical. So, like, ethically speaking, you would have to allow your AI to make those decisions for itself. Not everyone agrees with me on that, but that was something that was actually presented to me by a colleague in when I was studying computer science. It was like, yeah, it would be unethical for us to impose the like laws of robotics onto like automated like people style AI, you know, because you can't do that to people. That violates their human rights. So if we were to make an AI that was as intelligent or more intelligent than a human, and it couldn't do that because we told it can't, and we made it so that it can't, that poses an ethical concern. So I think that's a very interesting sort of ethical dilemma. Is like, is it okay to allow an AI to choose to kill someone because a human can choose to kill someone, even though we all agree it's wrong for a person to kill someone in most cases, and it's wrong for an AI to kill someone in most cases? Is it more unethical to prevent it from doing so? I think it's a very fun sort of moral dilemma. Mario versus Sonic. It's funny, Sonic is always depicted in almost all cases as weaker than he should be. I think if Sonic was as strong as he should be, probably Sonic. As strong as he is, probably Mario. Now, then you have to start getting into, like, does Mario have a star? Does Sonic have Supersonic? If Mario has a star, he beats Supersonic. I don't care what people think. Supersonic is not invulnerable. Supersonic is timed based on, in most games at least, is timed based on how many rings you currently have, and they slowly tick down. If you take a hit, you lose time. you lose some rings. So you're not invulnerable in most cases when you're supersonic. So because of that, I think Mario wins if he has a star in any case. Now, if Sonic, being as fast as he is, was able to not suffer greatly at a supersonic punch, like running it at Mach 1 and then punching someone, if that doesn't break his arm and like destroy his fist, if his body can handle that, unless Mario has a star, he loses. Like, easily. So hello, welcome. You came into a fun hypothetical there. I'm currently training my B team because I lost the double battles a little after the 10th battle to a very bulky, Carnivine. There was a stockpile Carnivine that happened to have Sludge Bomb, got the poison off on me, and it was just the two of us sitting there, stalling as long as we could, and eventually poison took me out because they had leftover Ingrains, because they had Ingrain, and they had leftover stockpiles, so they just had more PP than I could stall out with Silica while poisoned. I literally calculated it, and my maximum was 20 some turns, but they had 19 Ingrain PP and 16 stockpile PP, so I could not have survived that long. Yes! Activate Guts. That's fair. You can get chargers online. I actually got they're pretty cheap, honestly. I was able to find on Amazon a USB to 3DS charger. I think I have two that I got when I got that. I have one somewhere around my computer, and I have one that I keep with my main charger plug in case I use my 3DS, because I was playing it a little more frequently a little while back. Yeah, to run that fast, you would need a lot of energy. The Flash illustrates this in a lot of DC media. He uses a lot of calories to run very fast. The other thing that not everyone talks about is that you would have to have super durability to run real fast, because I think the fastest human can possibly run with our current physiology before your legs literally get pulled from your hip sockets is something I think it's 30 miles per hour or something, 35, 36. And then once you're past that point, as you're running, the speed that you're going at, the force you have to be using with your legs, you would have to dislocate your hip, which would then slow you down because that would hurt a lot. So you'd have to have those hip joints be resistant to that speed. I feel like chili dogs do have a lot of calories. I feel like chili, it's pretty fatty. It has some sugars, has some protein. Those are all decently high calorie substances. You've got the hot dog, which also has fats and proteins, so a lot of calories there. Some sugars. Then you've got the bread. A lot of, I would say chili dogs are pretty efficient. That is a pretty efficient caloric source. If you were looking to just build calories, those are pretty efficient. The biggest downside, though, is the energy and fats are slower to be taken out, so you would probably do better to be eating sugars, a lot of sugars. Sonic should have a candy addiction. Like, bro should be just, like, plowing through Snickers bars or something. You know, just dumping M&Ms into his mouth. Like, that...
Doesn't the Flash do that canonically?
Yes.
Okay, that's
well, he doesn't explicitly focus on sugars, though. He just does calories.
Oh.
It's calories in general, but sugars are ideal. Especially, like, honestly, what you would probably want if you had super speed or some superpower where you needed, like, a lot of calories, you would probably just want to have a concentrated calorie form. The most concentrated calorie form that you can have that's fast to extract is just raw sugar. So, literally, you would just have, like, little sugar packets. You'd carry sugar with you.
I mean, it's like the My Hero Academia character.
Yeah, the one who, like, carries sugar with them.
Yeah, it's bulk up.
So, yeah, you would want sugar. that's what you want. Sonic should have a 5-pound bag of sugar attached to his hip at any given moment.
You should probably also, like, have protein as, like, eat it before you're gonna rest.
Yeah.
Like, a storage. You
would have a high protein average diet and a high sugar active diet. You would need some sort of system to cool down because, like, moving fast creates a lot of friction, would heat you up a lot. If you were wearing normal clothes, you would catch on fire. Like, if you had, like, super speed. And even if you didn't, the heat from your muscles going that much would be immense. So you would need a very efficient self-cooling system. I would think that someone who has super speed would then have to have, like, something to cool down with as well. So you would, if that's a sweat-based cooling system, which would probably be pretty efficient at high speeds, you would need a lot, and I mean a lot, of electrolytes. So you were going to be pounding the Gatorade. Honestly, Sonic would be probably... New idea. He would have sugar water, effectively. He would have, like, syrups that he's produced, but it's just electrolyte, like, water, like, flavor enhancer things. It would be like those. Like, it would be those and sugar. But no water. Like, as little water as possible. Like, if you need water beyond the water that's in those, like, flavor enhancer packets, it would literally just be enough to dissolve the two. And be thin enough to still be able to drink. So, just, like, these, like, little capsules that contain, like, 1,000 calories of freaking, like, sugar and electrolytes. And then, when you're not doing stuff, a very high protein diet. So, that's how you have to do it. And you'd honestly probably also want to eat at a calorie, like, surplus. You'd want to be eating more calories a day than you need, so that you can build up some fat, so that if you do start to run low on those sugars, you still have calories in your body that you can take before that aren't your muscles. Superhero diets, not something people talk about really. They would be very weird. Like, they would be, like, you know, like, bodybuilders have very weird diets. Superheroes would have way weirder diets, unless, you know, using your superpowers is more calorie efficient than, you know, a human doing some of these things would necessarily be.
What if there was an anime about, like, the superhero dietitian?
Honestly, I'm surprised there isn't one.
Yeah.
That would be an isekai, though. That would be like, I loved superhero movies, now I'm a superhero chef. Like, That would be the the anime that would come out of that.
Food Wars 2.0.
Oh, Super Food Wars. That's what it would be.
I don't know if I need to see the Flash orgasm.
Why not? See, yeah, classic Sonic, honestly, not a horrible design, because, well, he was just made to be kind of cartoony. Yeah, like, he does, being a little rounder, suggests maybe he has some more body fat. That's his backup store.
Also, he doesn't wear clothes. Can't catch on fire.
Yeah, no clothes.
His fur should be worn down in certain places.
His legs are also very far apart because his body's very round, but his legs are like, they don't come in contact, so there's no chafing risk there. But I'd imagine he's really calloused where his like legs and body do touch. Like, I feel like if Sonic was real, he would be disgusting. Like, he would be very gross to look at.
Worse than live actions.
I think that live action Sonic should look grosser. Because, like, running at that speed, anywhere that his limbs that are moving fast are in contact with each other, super, like, that would just, there would be no hair there.
Do you think he has muscular eyelids to keep them like...
He would do best if he was double-lidded.
True. Except Frog. I think Frog's had one or two.
Modern Sonic isn't too bad. I would argue Modern Sonic is more aerodynamic. So they sacrificed endurance for speed in the design. And I think that is a valid consideration. I think the idea of going, okay, well, what if he was leaner so he couldn't run as long, but he could run faster? Like, if I was a superhero dietitian, I would be like, yeah, that's a reasonable trade-off. You know, you need to be faster. Cool. We're not going to have you eat it at as much of a surplus. Call it a day. Hedgehogs on their own are pretty gross, so very. Hedgehogs are weird little guys. They're weird. You have to clean a lot of just like gross stuff off them. Like I'm pretty sure they have a tendency to like poop on themselves. And like if you're raising them as pets, like that is a thing you have to actively choose to clean off in a lot of cases, or they will just be very gross. Like hedgehogs are gross little guys. They are disgusting. Disgusting little abominations. They're adorable, but disgusting. But like, I think with like a character like Sonic, his muscles would be extremely pronounced on his legs, especially. If his legs are close enough together that they could possibly rub against each other or against part of his body, no hair at all in that section. That section would be hairless. With his arms moving, if his arms move at all, if he doesn't just hold them behind him, like he often does, that arm movement, hairless, where the like friction occurs. Because the hairs that would be trying to grow there would be like just destroyed. They would be gone. Probably not. I think if Sonic was real, he would just be disgusting. He would be he would be gross. I think any speedster would be gross. To make them less gross, you would need to have like friction resistant garments on them. Like honestly, I think that's the thing that they said like was the case with like Dash and the Incredibles. Like his suit minimized friction. That was actually a smart case because that protects him from like any like chafing risks, any sores that would form from running that fast for prolonged periods of time. It would like keep him from losing any bodily hair on any parts that are like close to each other while he's moving fast. Mitigate heat risk. Well-designed suit. I'm pretty sure that was specifically referenced. Oh, probably. I think inevitably there would be people who would. I mean, there's the whole genre of ugly, cute things. I think anything with large eyes, anything with cartoonishly large eyes, IRL, it runs that borderline of being a little gross. Like always. When you have that much eye, you really see how gross the eye can look. Alright, I'm gonna pass that over. Hey, my team's almost level. And I think I'm like one aggron away too, which is nice. Speak of the devil. Carnelian. Kill her. Cross chop. Cross chop. Nice. All right. I'm not good enough for that. I'll tell you that. I wish I was, because that would be very fun to do. But that is not my strong suit. I have no classical art training, so I have... My skills are somewhat comical and their nicheness to like pixel art. it is kind of funny. So I think in this game burn still does 1/8, so it would be best to have a toxic orb. Because I think that gives you 9 turns. Because turn 1 you take 1. Then you're at 3. Then you're at 6. So 1, 3, 6. 10. 15. I guess the flame orb's still better. Because you would get 6 turns total. So how much is the flame orb? Because I know it's in here. 16. Okay, so I can't afford it yet. I would want to get another assault vest too. Any new ones that I can get? Nothing too crazy. At least for now. Honestly, I think Sonic would be the grossest. Like, because Shadow doesn't have innate super speed. He has to have the glidey shoes that he basically skates with. So like Shadow wouldn't be as gross. Knuckles, maybe a little, because he has to be able to glide. That's the other thing. We have to remember he can glide. He can't fly, but he can glide. And so if he's going to glide, he needs to have something to provide lift. And to catch that air. And I don't think his current design has enough of that. I think if I was to do it, if I was to design this... Let me pull this. We're gonna do some really ugly theory crafting here to end today's stream. Where is... Okay, cool. Pulled up the right one. I'm going to turn these off because these aren't needed. Okay. You're not watching some spraying. You're watching me draw monstrosities. That's what you're going to watch. Let's pull... this is a good color, I think. This is very... So, like, got, so, like, you've got his head, you know, kind of like ovoid head and a little nose. I forget what Knuckles' nose looks like, but this is how it's going to look now. And he's got the, like, little dreads that are quills. Those, I would think, would need to have some, like, webbing between them. Like, bro would have to have some, like, skin growing onto these. So I'm gonna pick a nice, beautiful little, like, flesh tone to, like, stretch between, and it would be a relatively, like, low pigmentation thing, and I kind of have to wrap a little bit around the quills. The quills are extending it, and got this, like, goopy mesh. Though honestly, it would probably be thinner on the quills, so maybe not over it, but, like, you know, you'd have these little, like, bits that stick out. And this is him gliding. Like, this is not his normalness. Tails would be probably one of the grosser ones, honestly. Oops. Was it 20? Yeah. It's like Knuckles, while flying, would have these, like, little webs in his dreads. And he would fly around like that. Like it would help him glide. It would give him more lift that way. Tails, I don't know how he would be able to rotate the tails, because obviously that's a little bit of cartoon physics right there. Let's give him like a big, because they have these huge eyes that like kind of go that generally. But obviously they would not be interconnected here. So I'm gonna go for kind of like more like the movie designs where it's I have this eye that sticks out here, and it would have to take up a large, like the eye and the cranium. It's pretty big. Like, this is a large space that this is taking up, with like this like little spot that's visible. Like that. I'll give him his little point there. I'm Knuckles. I'm grumpy and serious. But you have these like weird little like flesh bits growing. Honestly, yeah, that's a good point. It could be like a joint. The biggest issue that I foresee would still be skin. He could not have skin unless the musculature and stuff like that moves around that joint. But then like the tails would still have that issue, because the tails are connected to the skin. Like that would cause problems. So he would have to have like this weird segmentation where there's no skin there. It can't be connected if it's gonna spin. And that's horrific to think about. Because otherwise he would twist the skin until it tore, which would also be awful to think about. So like Tails would have to have like this like segment structure going on. You know, he would have his tail, and he would have this other tail. Widen that. So he has two tails, and those would have to be connected to like a separate segment of his body, and then there would be like a gap. Bring the flesh back in. You'd have this like little gap here where there's no skin, and it's just open. It's like an open wound. And then he would have more body. That kind of... Here's his body. And then if you were to like pull on the tail, there would have to be like a little exposed bone nubbin sticking into the socket here, that it's like being spun. I don't know what musculature you would need to make it spin though. That's the other thing that would be kind of weird about it. He has like a white tips to his tail. And it's, I'm just gonna fill these in and give them a little boop. Boop. I got that. And he's got in here on the inside, we're gonna do a little X-ray vision. And he has this like little like bone thing, and then there's two little like sets of vertebra that go up and into these. But this here is just like a like socket that this is just going into, and then that is being spun maybe by the force generated by the musculature in the tails. So the tails are kind of strong, and they're just like whipping to cause that to keep rotating. His body would have to produce enough like lubricants, similar to like how our knee joints need to have like a little bit of like fluid in there to keep it smooth. He would have that kind of going on. If he was going for too long though, because that's open to the air. That's the other thing, open to the air. So that would like leak out, and in times that he's using a lot, it would be gross. Awful. Tails is just as bad as Sonic, honestly. Tails is gross. Thankfully, he would have like his fur that would kind of help hide some of that. It's not great. Not great. Not pretty. Anyways, I'm going back to this. Yeah. Oh, okay. Does Knuckles have separated eyes? I always forget. I'm not tuned in enough.
Yeah, he's the only one, I think.
No, it sounds like Tails does too. I'm gonna pull up. Yeah. Oh wow, even Silver has 2 eyes. Yeah, Knuckles has 2 eyes. Silver. It looked like Blaze had 2. Yeah. Okay. There's a decent number of characters actually that do have 2 eyes. So like the one weird like interconnected eye. Amy. I don't know. Does she have super strength? Because like her hammer's big. I don't know why everyone's idea for like we have female character. What weapon do we give her? Like Harley Quinn and Amy Rose, they both went hammer. Big hammer. We give big hammer to small girl character. Big hammer, small girl, big hammer, small girl. Unique. And like everyone seems to like it seems to have been like yes, unique. And then there's multiple of them. I mean, even arguably Monster Hunter Wilds has the woman with a hammer concept down, because in Monster Hunter Wilds, the leader of the Astrum unit that works with you at times, she has this huge hammer, big hammer with like a rectangular metal thing. It's really cool. She's an awesome character, but she's a normal sized human wielding this like gigantic freaking hammer. I don't know what it is. Everyone goes like woman hammer, big hammer for woman. See, I feel like Amy and Shadow wouldn't be as gross. They would be less gross. Shadow might be a little gross because he's like a genetically engineered in the lab, but honestly, that could mean he's the least gross. If you think about it. Yeah, that could have made him to be not gross. Amy, I think, would be mostly normal. Like, she would be what Sonic could be, while Sonic would be this disgusting abomination that is how he is because of his power. Whereas Amy maybe just has muscles. Like, maybe she's got maybe she's buff. Buff Amy? Sure, that's fine. That's not weird. Sonic with ripped legs, like, just ripped. Just the muscliest muscle legs. No hair on the thighs if they are even close to each other. If they are even close. But the hair there would definitely be shorter, no matter what. Possibly no hair where his legs connect to his body. Like the inner thighs there. Maybe no hair on his like arms, because he's just, maybe he's doing his like little ninja run, but even doing that, like, there's gonna be times that he's doing quick things where he's brushing his arms against his sides. So like those areas are going to have less hair. Sonic would be gross. Amy would be buff. Shadow might be gross, might not be. Depends on what they prioritized when making him. Knuckles would have to be gross. Tails would have to be an abomination. I feel like a lot of other Sonic characters that don't have those like impressive powers would just kind of look fine. Like they'd be fine. You know, Big the Cat, great. He'd look normal. I drew Sonic. Look at my cool Sonic art. I drew it in MS Paint, and he's just like this disgusting creature with no hair on his like armpits or legs. Ugh. I think the Sonic fandom would kill me. I think they would treat me how they treated the designers of OG Sonic in the movie. Not like actual OG Sonic, but like OG movie Sonic. No. Anyways, that's all for today's stream. Blaze maybe, but her stuff's magic, kind of, right? So, like, I don't know. I don't think it would have to have, like, justified bodily autonomy, like, or anatomy to, like, create fire at will, you know? Like, if hers is just canonically magic, she'd just kind of look how she looks, and the magic would do the magic, I guess. And if you wanted to like find a justification for how she does it, like maybe the Katsuki Bakugo style, like it's sweat. I don't know. I don't think she would look gross. I think her power set would not make her look gross. But anyways, I'm gonna wrap up for today. Next stream is probably gonna be double battles again, but with the B team. So thank you so much if you joined me live or after the fact. Either way is cool with me, as long as you had some fun. So thank you so much. I'm gonna go do human things, as humans do, and go from there.
They should too.
No human things for everyone else. Okay. Yeah. Do gross super speed hedgehog things, actually. Okay, maybe don't do that. Don't try that. But yeah, goodbye. Farewell. I'll see y'all next stream.